Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Watching the World, where we're having the weekly legal review, and we're privileged to have a criminal defense attorney with us by the name of Calvin Johnson. We want to welcome you to the show. We're going to be discussing a lot of topics today in regards to what's happening in the news, especially this week. Everybody's talking about Charlie Kirk, and we know that this topic has brought a lot of division among many people in the country, but we're going to discuss it and get right to it. So at this point, we're going to bring on Calvin Johnson.
How's everybody doing today? What's up, Mel?
Quite well. How are you, Calvin?
Man, I'm feeling great. It's been a long week. A lot to talk about. This country really is kind of being ripped apart by number one, the death of Charlie Kirk, and number two, the responses to it, and how people feel about it, how they should feel, and do they have the right to feel how they feel without having consequences for speaking their mind. So there's a lot to go over with, and we definitely want to get into that tonight.
All right, very good. I was talking with an insider in Washington, D.C. today, and actually I was invited to come down and meet with the mayor that's actually dealing with Donald Trump. But anyway, one of her staff was talking to me today, and they said that actually when it comes to the authorities, they're not really in the hood of D.C. They're actually guarding the affluent neighborhoods. What are your thoughts on that?
Once again, that's sending a message. I think the base of Trump and the people that probably support him are a little bit more affluent. And he wants to show them, his base, that there's a presence there. And so when we start talking about those kinds of situations, I think you got to be extremely careful, because it sends a message that the federal government, of course, is there to keep the peace and to make sure that no crime occurs. But also the message that it sends is that we're with you. Whatever they're doing over there, they're going to do, as long as they don't bring it over here. And then that's a concern, because when you're a president and when you're government, your job is to be a president and government over everybody, not just a particular group because they support you. But that's the risk that we're currently running right now. It's going to appear, and I think it's appearing, and I think it's feeling that when you lose an election, the person who wins doesn't really care about what happens to you because you didn't vote for him. And that is a very dangerous, slippery slope that we're starting to slide down.
Right. Now, this individual also told me that they have a program that works with ex-inmates, and the program is basically designed to help them engage back into society. But she said that usually each day, those ex-inmates, they have to rush out because they're trying to get to the park because they want to spend the night by a special tree. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. That's crazy. And it's one of those things where, this world is changing. Everything about what we thought was normal is no longer normal. And we're going to have a lot to deal with coming up real soon.
Right. As a criminal defense attorney, I'm sure you specialize in dealing with people who have all sorts of issues. Now, according to popular opinion, a lot of these criminal defenses come from, or these instances happen because people don't have money. Do you think that that's really true?
What do you mean, not being able to have good legal representation because they don't have money?
Or they're committing crimes because they don't have money?
I think some of it is that. Some of it is you're committing crimes because you don't have money. But then, there's more to that. I mean, I always tell people I had what we call a moral compass. So there were certain things I wasn't willing to do for money. And I think that as the years go on, people are less inclined to have that moral compass. And it seems like people are almost willing to do anything to get money. It's like that song, For the Love of Money. When you listen to the words of the OJs back in the day, they're really predicting the future. And they're really talking about what people are willing to do. And it seems like, as the OJ saying then, it seems like people are willing to steal from their brother, lie to their mother, they're willing to sacrifice some of the foundational values that we used to get taught in church to be able to get money. And you piggyback that on what kind of crimes are you willing to commit? What kind of situations are you willing to put yourself in and your family in while you're committing these crimes? It's a lot to talk about, man, when you start thinking about that. Part of it is money, but part of it is lack of opportunity. So I think when you talk about that, I think you have to think about all those things.
It seems that the current client is taking away opportunities. In fact, you see they're cutting back on Medicaid, Medicare, and other programs, Section 8. Any thoughts on that?
I'm really concerned because I think that the current administration seems to think that the government's job is almost to run like a business. And I don't view government that way. I think government is at some point there to provide services, and they're a guardrail to make sure things don't get out of control, I think, in this democracy that we have. And I think that when you go pure capitalism, you know, people are going to be willing to do any and everything to be able to take care of themselves and their families, right? So we got to be extremely careful when you start cutting these programs, because some people need that medicine to live. People need a roof over their shoulders. And if they don't have that, then, you know, they may be willing to do some things that that are not lawful. They may be willing to do some things that are going to step over a line. And so you got to be extremely careful when you start cutting these government programs, because a lot of people are depending on those things.
Right. It seems that, especially when everyone's talking about Charlie Kirk, it seems that people are at extreme odds this week. Do you see that the heat is up higher this week?
It definitely is. A lot of people are concerned about the direction of dissent in this country. When I say direction of dissent, when somebody passes away, and I always tell people, I'm going to have some decency. I'm never going to celebrate any man losing his life. I feel bad for his family, his wife, his children, even though he said some things that were extremely disrespectful to people who look like me, our women, some of the other groups that he said some things about. But there's a certain amount of decency that I have that I'm not willing to throw away just because somebody else is willing to throw theirs away. But I've seen a lot of arguing going back and forth between African Americans, white folks, people that support Charlie, people who don't. And I am extremely concerned about that direction, because I've even had some friends that I'm friends with that are, I would say maybe they're Republicans, or probably Republicans, and they see Mr. Kirk in a way that I do not. And then they don't get the fact that some of us, especially when it comes to people of color, and especially women of color, how upset that they are at some of the things that he had said about them. But I've also come to the realization that maybe certain groups of people are tired of even caring about what happens to people who look like me and look like you. And they're more concerned with their own kids, their own family, their own way. And I'm not saying that to make it a bad thing, but I think as African Americans, or people of color, and people of the other groups, we have to start realizing that certain folks are more concerned with their situation. They're less concerned with our situation. And I think that the expectation that they be more concerned about our situation, we need to let some of that go, because we need to take action in certain things in certain ways to make sure that regardless of what they do and how they feel, that we make a way for ourselves to survive and live in this country. And we got to be extremely careful when we start talking about that.
Right. I saw a video this week in regards to Charlie. Said if you talk negative about him, I think J.D. Vance said that they were going to take some extreme measures. And
see, that's where I think that you got to be extremely careful when you start talking about extreme measures, when you start talking about start talking negative about somebody because you're taking people's jobs away. Because I said something negative and he said something negative about Black women and African Americans, then you're kicking me out of school. You're taking my job. You're putting me in a position where I can't take care of myself. I think that they need to be extremely careful with that. More importantly, I'm kind of a slippery slope kind of guy. When you start letting them take those things away from you, what's the next thing that they're going to do when they start talking about, I'm gonna come lock you up because you're saying this? That's the extreme of what's happening right now, right? And I'm concerned that, number one, that they don't understand the ramifications of the slope that they're sliding down on that end. And then I think that they need to be extremely careful because people are not going to put up with that.
JD Vance says, if you notice someone talking derogatory toward Charlie Kirk, you should call their boss.
And see, those are the kind of things that we got to be extremely careful about, because right now they're in power, right? What happens if the Democrats win and they start acting like that? What happens when we have 4 years of this and 4 years of that? That's the concern I have for this country at this point, that you're not allowed to express yourself because you don't like somebody, because some of the things that they said about you, you say some things about them, and then the government decides that, no, you can't say that, even though he said that about your people, the Black women in your family, the Black women that you revere, some of the other people that you revere, the fact that he accused Black folks of just being thugs, lurking in communities, going after white people, because he said some of those things, and you don't like that, and you say something back, that they now want to take some kind of action against you, cause you to lose your job, cause you to hurt, cause you financial pain, cause you and put you in a situation where you can't take care of you and yours. I think they need to be really careful about that, because somebody's going to get hurt when you start doing that at a larger scale. And I don't think that we want to start going down that route.
One member of Donald Trump's key administration said that if people are talking negatively, we're going to take their money. And also, if they commit a crime, we're going to lock them up. Seems like taking their money came without a crime necessarily being attached.
And see, that's where they need to be careful, because when you start talking like that you're going to take somebody's money, and you start talking about that you're going to come lock them up, you're going to take them up and lock their money, they're going to lock them up and take their money. You shouldn't be starting to talk like that. You shouldn't be doing that, because some people are just not going to have it. That's going to be met with the highest level of resistance. I have enough common sense now to take things too far, but there are folks out here that are not going to let you come take their money and lock them up just because you disagreed with something that they said, that because they disagreed with something you said, or they criticized somebody that you liked, and you're going to decide to come take their well-being, their money, and their job, and their freedom. That's not going to fly. That's going to be met with the highest level of resistance.
Right. I also see on social media they're trying to compare Charlie Kirk to Jesus. Have you seen that?
I've seen that, and I'm extremely concerned, because when I consider myself a person of faith, and I've seen several people who profess that they are people of faith go in, and what they do is they try to sanitize some of the stuff that he said. And I think that you have to be extremely careful when you start sanitizing stuff that people did or said just because of the fact that he died in a horrific way, which I don't agree with him dying. And I think that he died horrifically. But that does not change the fact that he said some things that were extremely disrespectful to people of color. He said some extremely disrespectful to former First Lady Michelle Obama, Ketanji Brown, our Supreme Court Justice. These are people who had finished at the top of their classes when they were in school, and he called them DEI hires and DEI placements and those kinds of things. You can't sanitize that kind of stuff. You have to be able to tell the truth. Just because somebody died, you can't clean up how they lived. They lived how they lived.
Right. Many people talk about Charlie as though he was a big activist, but at the end of the day, it's starting to come out that perhaps he was being funded by Israel.
Well, see, those are the things that people talk about. They really talk about his opinion and his opinion pieces. And see, I have a unique perspective on Mr. Kirk. I had heard of him and I saw some of the stuff he said. There are a lot of people of color that are really extremely upset about some of the things that he said. I'm disappointed that he said them, but he's not somebody that I put a lot of stock in and that I respect, whose opinion that I respect, right? He was 31 years old. I don't know. I know that he had a decent background, but when I see him say certain things, I think it lacked being measured. I think that he generalized a lot and he painted a lot of Black women, African-American people, and people of color and people from some of the disadvantaged groups in an improper way. But at the same time, I never said anything about it when he was living because he has a right to say whatever he wants to say. I just don't put much stock in him and what he says. I mean, he's not somebody that I have, God bless his soul, but he's not somebody who I had a whole lot of respect for because of the way he talked. And so with that being said, sometimes people of color and people in these groups have to be careful about always jumping up and having to rebuke or having to put down the person because of what they said. I think sometimes we're giving fuel to the fire when you start having conversations with certain people and giving them too much power over your life and how you feel as a person. So I think that's where we got to start thinking about as a group. We got to be very careful about that.
It seems to be that the younger generation is starting to answer in a very different way than what we've seen in the older days, I would say. We see these young guys are starting to shoot, and also they're starting to shoot from the top of buildings, and it's becoming a pattern. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's years of playing those video games. It's years of being told that you can do whatever you want. It's years of being taught to take out your enemy or those you disagree with. And it's bigger than that because I say that in the past, in America, your neighbor was somebody that maybe you disagreed with, but you didn't hate. Now, your neighbor is somebody that if you disagree with them, they're your sworn enemy for life. And you don't want to do anything with them. You don't want to have any conversations with them. You look down on them for not feeling the way you feel. And you're willing to die on the stump because of your ideas versus their ideas. And I think that the more that happens in America, the bigger the problems that we're going to have.
Now we're starting to see that there is a lot of black on black crime. We can't run away from that concept. We see it in Chicago and a lot of the major cities. But when we have these shootings, I never hear white on white crime. I hear it's left versus right. Why is that the case?
And see, that's the thing that angers me when it's black on black crime. You know, they treat us like we're wild animals and we can't control ourselves. And it's black on black crime, see what they're doing. But when it's them shooting each other, it's liberal versus conservative, left versus right, Republican versus Democrat. You know, they made the young man seem to be, he'd been radicalized and those types of things. And those are the things that bother me because we're feeling the pain of something that happened over there to them that was involving them that had nothing to do with us. And that's the part that bothers me the most. Black schools or HBCUs were getting threats. When this happened at the whitest of all white universities in Utah, then they tried to make it seem like HBCUs had a part in it just because we didn't want to, kiss Charlie Kirk's feet and then kiss the ring. They feel like it's partly our fault, and that's very upsetting. God, man, I want you to think about this. It happened in Utah, right? We're talking Utah. Man, it don't get no wider than Utah. Only brothers I've seen in Utah in my life is when I watch the Utah Jazz and when I watch an NBA game. Outside of that, somebody says there's somebody black in Utah. There's not very many African-American people in Utah. And so, and then that campus is more of on the conservative side. It's not one of these liberal campuses. And the fact that other groups, especially African-Americans, are feeling the pain about something that happened inside of their house is really upsetting.
Right. Charlie Kirk was pushing a narrative. We could discuss it, maybe unpack it. I think he said that Blacks make up 13% of the population, but are responsible for 70% of the crime. And everybody's spending that on social media. You hear it on the news.
And that's what I'm concerned about, because I think when people talk crime, we really talk about proximity, right? When it comes to African Americans, typically we live in urban areas where there's a lot of us on top of each other. So when a crime is committed, I'm more likely to commit a crime against somebody who's African American because that's who's living next to me. That's who's living upstairs from me. That's who's walking next to me. That's who I'm seeing every day. That's who I'm bunched in and crowded with. And so when they start talking about that, I point that out. And then it's almost like, because of the way that some of these communities are, they don't want any African Americans living out in the white parts. Think about white flight, and people ran out of communities and went to the suburbs and went even farther than the suburbs. Well, you got African Americans living close to each other, right on top of each other. Of course, there's going to be a lot of crime between African Americans because we live closer. But that's not the only thing. We actually lack resources. We lack infrastructure. Some of it is the fault. Some of it is our own fault. But some of it is the fault of history and how unkind history has been to us in terms of financial ability to be able to take care of ourselves and start things. However, I'm of the opinion that we need to be extremely careful when we start talking about that, because we eventually are going to have to take our communities under control. We're going to have to make sure that we do what we can do for ourselves, regardless of what people in the wider communities are doing, which means it's on us. We got to start thinking about what we can control. I can't make I can't make white folks care about me. I can't make them love me. I can't make them feel bad about something that their ancestors did 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years ago. That's something that I know I don't control, right? I don't control that. What I know I can control is, do I want to raise my kids right? Do I want to watch some of this music that they're listening to? Do I want to continue to have my community put down Black men and talk negatively about them? Do I want to have my community not being able to hold our women accountable, not hold our men accountable, not hold our children accountable? I think that internally we got to start looking at what we're doing as a community, because one thing that I am assured of at this point, there are certain people in those communities that could care less what happens to us. One of us get killed, they don't care, or they may not say anything, but their heart does not skip a beat at all. One thing I do know is in our community, we care a lot more for ourselves than we're supposed to. So we better stop expecting people from other communities to think about us. And we got to start caring for ourselves and thinking about ourselves and start doing better for ourselves, because white folks in America, most of them, and I can't speak for all of them, they're concerned and do well. They're concerned about their kids, their futures, their parents, their ability to be safe, their ability to pass their wealth on. And I can't be mad at them for that. I'm more concerned that as African Americans, sometimes we don't see that we need to do what we need to do, regardless of what white folks are doing, or as they say, Mr. Charlie is doing. Whatever Mr. Charlie is doing, he's gonna do. But we need to make sure we start taking care of our own business.
You know, Charlie, he took a lot of the things that we see on World Star, Hip Hop, Black Twitter, Black YouTube, or whatever you want to call it, right? And he put it in under a magnifying glass at the top colleges. Do you think that's the reason why so many people connected with him throughout the country?
I think so. And there's a lot of that even as African Americans, when we see some of that stuff on World Star, it's painful to watch. I mean, I've seen people do some of the most reprehensible things on some of those platforms. I've seen us treat each other really, really bad. When it comes to music, and I think we've had this conversation before with me and you, Mel, and I had a conversation this weekend because we had a Black men to talk about mental health this weekend, and I had a conscious hip hop artist on, and we used to have these conversations about music and lyrics and some of the stuff that he puts out into the sphere, right? The stratosphere, right? And he would always tell me, he said, Kevin, I don't rap about certain things because I don't want to speak ill. I don't want to speak evil. I think you can bring some of those things into existence by speaking that way. And I think that it doesn't do anything positive for the culture. And I definitely understood what he was saying. He said, yeah, I had people want me to rap about this and that, and said I'd make a whole lot more money if I did that. But he said, that's just something I think I'm not going to do that. But there are hip hop artists right now that speak negatively into the air when it comes to our music, when it comes to our TV shows. The line is being blurred. When it comes to our women that participate in even in hip hop in some of these shows now, they're showing where their bodies. Some of the lyrics are gutter bottom lyrics when you start talking about that, and these things have a lot of influence on our kids. So we got to start thinking about that. And I'm one of those people who I was not for any censorship of hip hop, especially coming from the era that we came from. But it's to a point right now where I had an old school always complaining about, she would always complain about hip hop lyric and content. And I kind of understand what she's saying now, because it is really something that if we don't get a hold on, that they will continue to use, and it'll put us in a really, really bad situation.
Right. Now, one of the things that Charlie talked about is that in the Black community, men tend to go and make babies throughout the land and never look back. They do not participate in staying with the family and raising their children. That's one of the points that many people are talking about. Do you think that there's a solid point there that he made?
No. When they did some studies, and they said that Black men, the ones that are involved in their families, that they're some of the most involved men when it comes to their children and their families. I think that he's going after a narrative. Now, we do have a lot of people in some of these communities that are having babies by different women and moving on to the next one. And we're having a lot of women allowing that to happen and accepting that kind of behavior out of our men. But with that being said, I think that that is not true. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know a Black man, and maybe it's because of what I do. I don't know a Black man that's not involved in his children's and his family's lives. I just don't know one. And people go like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "No, he's either there in the household, he's either paying that child support, or he's trying to give what he can give, spending whatever time he can spend with his children, or he's attempting to see his children, and maybe the woman is acting a fool and won't let him do it." But with all of those things being said, I don't know a Black man that's not trying to be involved in his kids' lives.
Candace Owens, in many cases, have tried to stand behind Charlie Kirk, but she's getting a lot of pushback. A lot of the Black conservatives are getting pushback, especially on YouTube. Why do you think that's the case? Do you think that a lot of the MAGA are just tired of Black conservatives too?
I think that they are. And then I'm calling some of the Black conservatives out. I used to watch Anton Daniels a lot. And when I would watch him, when Trump would do something wrong, he would never call him out on it. He would never say anything negative about Trump. Now, I always tell people, I'm not the biggest Trump fan. I see some of the stuff that he does do. I may even agree with some of the stuff that he does do. But I can't really support him just on a foundational, I just can't do it because I don't think he's honest. I think that he weaponizes race. I think he's a great divider of people, not a great uniter of people. But when I watch shows like Anton Daniels and Nate the Lawyer, I'm calling both of them out. They can never really seem to, when Mr. Trump does something negative, does something unconstitutional, does something that's extremely divisive, they don't say anything about it. They just keep going, and that's just saying, that's just extremely disappointing. You know what I mean?
Right. Do you think it's because of the money that comes with towing the line?
And I think it is. Like I said before, I'm honest about everything. Most of the stuff Trump does, I just can't get with. Some of the stuff he has points on. When he does have a point on something, I'm able to say it. He wouldn't have been my choice. I think it divides people. I think there is a way to do some of what he does and not do the rest of what he does and do it in a respectful manner. But with that being said, I can't really do him like that. And I think that when you're a Black conservative or somebody that's independently conservative, right? I think a lot of these people on these platforms want to continue to be invited on Fox, invited in some of the other rooms when it comes to being a Black conservative or being invited to Republican Party shows, appearances, and events. And I think a lot of them don't want to call out some of the behavior on the right because they're afraid that those folks will turn against them. But I always thought that probably would happen, that a lot of the Black conservatives, I think they're going to find out that once they do what they need to do over there, eventually they're going to turn on them too. And I think that they need to be extremely careful about who they align themselves with.
Right. When you watch late night television, usually you're looking for comedy, right? I don't think a lot of people tune in to get their political news. Why do you think they cooked Jimmy Kimmel so badly when he's just trying to express himself, basically from a light manner?
And then that's the thing. They are unwilling to listen to any voices of dissent. It's just like the fact that they basically took Jasmine Crockett's seat, whether you like her or not, because she was dissenting with them. And stuff like that really makes me think about things. And then when you have Jimmy Kimmel, they decided that they were going to make him pay for not kissing the ring and kissing the feet of Charlie Kirk. But I think that they soon found out that there's a double-edged sword there, right? So you suspend Mr. Kimmel, put him off the air, but I think Disney, ABC, and ESPN, which is one group now, they started feeling the pinch because a lot of people started to cancel their subscriptions. They started canceling all the money that they were spending with Disney, ABC. They started canceling the theme park. They started canceling all of these subscriptions to stuff Disney related, ESPN related, and ABC related. And I think that the company started to feel that. And I think that they're even talking about bringing Jimmy Kimmel back on this week, because I think that they need to understand that that is a double-edged sword. Maybe 30 or 40% of the people are going to be happy that you kick Kimmel off, but there's enough 40 or 50% that are going to say, hey, it's free speech. And what you're doing is wrong to him because he disagrees with the president. You're going to take him off the air. Oh, we got something for you. We're just going to cancel you. We're not going to watch your show. You're not going to get ratings. And we're not going to spend any money with you. So I think that's kind of what it is. Now, in terms of having an opinion, most late night hosts are going to talk about current events. Charlie Kirk is a current event. He's definitely a current event. He's a huge event. And so people are going to talk about that. And I think that it shouldn't be a surprise that comedians do that. And I think comedians should have a lot more leeway when they talk about things. So they bring comedy, they bring levity. And comedians, to me, get a little extra rope in terms of being able to say stuff. But they did not want them to do that, And I think that ABC kind of realized that they had problems by getting rid of Kimmel because they were going to lose a lot of business behind it. And I think that, and they should, because you should not be restricting somebody like that.
Charlie Kirk would go to the different, I think it said about 400 colleges to do debates. He was really big into free speech. Why would they use his death to try to shut down free speech?
And see, that's the thing. I have a unique perspective about Mr. Kirk himself. I did not like what he was saying, but he has the right to say it. If he doesn't respect Black women, he can say it. If he doesn't like Black women, he can say it. If he wants to call us thugs, he can say it. But with that being said, I also have a right to feel like I feel about him and what he's saying. But I think more importantly, as African Americans and people of color and people that maybe he said something about, we should not be giving that fire the gasoline and air that it needed to grow. Charlie Kirk was a 31-year-old individual. I'm in my 50s. Based on what I had saw of them, I did not hold his opinion in high regard in terms of what he said about people like me and people of color. I mean, honestly, he's just not really qualified to really talk about us in that manner. And when somebody's not qualified, as far as I'm concerned, he could feel like he's qualified. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't put much stock into that. And I don't look at people like him to determine how good I'm going to feel about myself or how good I'm going to feel about other Black people or other people, minority groups or other Black women. I think that on one end, Charlie has the right to say whatever he wants to say. I have no problem. But at this back end, we also have the right to criticize what he says. And when he dies, you can't go back and sanitize the stuff he said and say, oh, y'all taking it out of context. Nah, we're not doing that. We're just telling the truth. He told his truth, we're going to tell ours. And that's what America should be about.
If you're speaking with intelligence and you're speaking the truth, why would you be so concerned about people speaking negatively about the president?
And see, those are the things that I get concerned about. This country is turning into, I'm going to punish you. I'm going to punish you for talking bad about the president. I'm going to punish you for talking bad about Charlie. I'm going to punish you for this and punish you for that. You shouldn't be doing that. Jimmy Kimmel has a right to say what he wants to say. Charlie Kirk has the right to say what he wants to say. The president had the right to say what he wants to say, even though he is the president. And I think that he should be a lot more responsible in the words that he uses. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of a different lot. If somebody doesn't like me or somebody might be racist or somebody might say some very negative things about me, I'd rather know how they feel so that I don't deal with them, so that I don't trust them, so that I don't put a lot of stock in what they're saying. I'd rather have that than to have somebody quietly say nothing and feel a certain way about me and take actions later that could hurt me. So I'm a different lot when it comes to Trump and it comes to Mr. Kirk and all that. I want to know if you don't like me. I want to know if you're okay with making statements like that, because when you make statements like that about people of color, about our women, about Black people in general, it tells me what you think about us. And to be honest with you, I don't want to be around you in certain situations. I might not want to be around you at all.
Okay, we have quite a few people in the building. Can you please take a moment and tell everyone how to contact you?
My name is Attorney Calvin D. Johnson. I can be reached at theywon'tletmeout.com, which is my website. My phone number is 214-565-5600. And I can be reached at theywon'tletmeout.com, which is the website once again, or I can be reached at attorneycalvindjohnson@gmail.com as my email. I'm a 25-year practicing criminal defense attorney almost, and former city council candidate. I also have a nonprofit foundation that I work with called Serum Foundation. We got a thing called Clean the Block Initiative, where we clean up communities. We also volunteer at Ring of Hope Boxing in South Dallas. And I do a lot of community work with the Dixon Circle Community Association, as well as the Queen City Homeowners Association. So I'm extremely active in my community, active with our children, and I try to lead by example, coming up from a rough neighborhood in South Dallas and becoming an attorney. So I'm a American success story, And I want more people that have dreams and aspirations like myself to make those aspirations and dreams come true. So that's how you can get in touch with me. That's who I am.
All right. We'd like to ask everyone to hit the like button, share, and subscribe if you like the material. For some reason, when it comes to MAGA, a lot of them are pulling in the whole Christian movement as a part of MAGA. It's a one-on-one identity. That's at least what they're trying to do. A lot of them have pushed away from Israel because of becoming a Christian and seeing all the violence that's happening in Pakistan and around the area. What are your thoughts about that in the news?
I've seen that, and there are a lot of people that don't like some of the behavior because they're Christian traditionalists. We take the word by the word, and we don't put politics first. A lot of people are putting politics first. Like, for example, as I'm speaking now, somebody may say, "Oh, you're a Democrat or you're a Republican." No, I'm a person of Christ first. I am a believer. I am a Christ follower. I believe in the foundational values that Christ put out there. And I will tell people there are a lot of things in the Democratic Party that I don't like, that I think that are unbiblical positions, and I call them out. But at the same time, I give people the right to be able to live the life they want to live and do what they do. I don't put politics above my faith and my foundational faith. And I think that anybody who puts their politics in front of their faith, they're not really Christians. They're conditional Christians. So I'm somebody who I have foundational values, and my foundational values come before Republican or Democratic values, or the fact that the Republicans think they have the market cornered on being a Christ follower or being Christian. I would say more of a Christ follower, because a Christian right now has started at times to not have a good connotation. But I think that they are wrong in thinking that they have the market cornered on faith. And I think that the Democrats sometimes view people of faith as not being somebody that they want to deal with, because they've taken a lot of positions that may not jive with the Bible. So I think that when you start talking about those things, we got to be extremely careful in today's world, because I see a lot of people putting politics above their faith. And God never meant that to be able to happen. So there were no Republicans or Democrats in the Bible. So I don't understand why people think that they can put their politics above following God.
A key component of Christianity is loving your neighbor as yourself. How could that be when these individuals actually demonstrate that they hate their neighbors in many cases?
And see, that's where I have a problem, especially with their party over with the Republicans. They do a lot of that. They really say that they hate their neighbors. And the Democrats do some of that too. Don't get me wrong. There's some far left groups that will say the same thing. But I have problems with Republicans who say that they are Christ followers, but they hate their neighbors, or they support people who hate their neighbors, who may not be the most biblical people, biblical following people that are out there. I think the Republicans on their end have decided that they won't look at the behavior of the person. They'll look at the policy. And I say the policy, if the policy is something that they consider religious or biblical, they're willing to overlook the behavior of the person who's pushing it. And I think both are as important to each other. I think the person pushing it as well as the policy. I think that the person pushing it should be modeling the policy that you're pushing. And a lot of them don't see it that way. And when it comes to the Democrats, a lot of Democrats kind of have allowed what some would call wokeism to define their Christianity, right? So their Christianity is taking on social justice, the parts of the social justice parts of the Bible. that they think that's there. So, and there's nothing wrong with doing the right thing and treating people properly. But I think today's politics has mixed religion in a little bit too much. And I think that people are identifying their political parties with their religion. And I don't think we should be doing that. I think that's dangerous.
We've seen a lot of tragedy. We've seen a lot of things occur, especially within the last few weeks. Still no clear leader of the Democratic Party. Why do you think that's the case?
I think because you have a lot of groups in that party. I think when you talk about the Democratic Party, you got an LGBTQ wing, you got a trans wing, you got Black people, you got brown people, you got women, you got poorer people, you got people that pull for abortion, you got people that pull more for LGBTQ issues. You got this big tent of people who may not always agree with everything that all of these little separate groups do. And I think the Democratic Party has a problem because a lot of people are starting to become extremely concerned. Like, as an African American, I did not support some of the far left policies that they did. I'm considering myself more of an independent leaning Democrat now, is what I call myself. I independent on some things. I'm willing to vote for other sides and stuff that makes sense. But I think that some of the stuff to the far left, I wasn't a fan of, because I think it took people away from the common man, the common person who's working, the common person who's raising a family. How's he going to pay his bills? How is he going to get his medicine? How's this kid's going to go to college and have opportunities? How they're going to be able to afford buying a house? How they're going to prosper in America? I think the Democratic Party has kind of left that person in the dust. And I think the Republicans have pointed it out and they picked that person up. And I think when you start looking at those things, I think that's where you got to start having some concerns, because when you talk about leadership, true leadership would come in and say, you know what, y'all, that far left stuff, y'all need to calm down over there. We need to come back to the middle. We need to get working class people and talk to them. People are trying to raise their kids. People are trying to pay their bills. People are trying to get medical care. People that just want to have safe homes. We don't want crime running rampant. Do you want to do some social justice things? Yes. But you want to be safe. You got to make sure people feel safe. And so sometimes going too far left, the Democratic Party is paid for it. And America has decided that they're so far left, they don't want to deal with it. They'd rather deal with what Mr. Trump is doing, because they don't like some of the stuff on the far left, like some of the trans stuff, the bathroom stuff, some of the stuff that's leaking into our kids and our movies. I recently Snoop Dogg was at a Disney movie, and there were two women in that movie having a baby, and people were concerned about that. And then some people are like, why is that even in the movie when kids are there? So it's that kind of stuff. And when you have those kind of debates, some people are, well, it's, they need to know this. No, it's my kid. I get to decide when they get exposed to that. And so I think that I think we got to start paying attention. And the reason why you don't have real leadership, because nobody's willing to say what I'm saying right now.
NBC News came out this week and said they could not connect the shooter to any far left groups, right? So here's my question for you. When it comes to the far right, we don't hear anything about it anymore when it comes to violence. In fact, January the 6th, Donald Trump said that those individuals were not that violent. And remember the incident where they had the tiki torches down in Charlotte, Virginia?
Yeah.
Donald Trump said that these guys were not that bad. But immediately when Charlie Kirk was shot, before he probably even reached the hospital, the narrative came out from the top seat of the land that this was a violent leftist individual. Why is this the case?
And see, that's the kind of stuff that I'm concerned about. What happened in January 6th could have been a lot worse. Let's say that that officer doesn't shoot that lady trying to climb through that window. And let's say they get in there and do some real damage to people. Let's say they go get onto Maxine and do some stuff to her. Let's say they get to the vice president and his family and they do something to her. Let's say that they hit some of the people that we elected as representatives and they hurt them. This country could have went in a bad way. We could have been in a bad situation. And then those are our leaders, our elected leaders. Now, what happens when you go in and take out some elected leaders or attack elected leaders? That could have went extremely bad. And I think that's very, very dangerous. But when that happens, you're quiet about it and you pardon all of those people. But with Mr. Kirk, somebody that you can't even identify that the left had anything to do with him losing his life, now you want to go super hard on people on the left because you're blaming them. But what about January 6th? People don't understand how bad that was. Like, some folks, I mean, they're playing politics, but if it had been me and y'all came to do something to me and nobody did something to you, I might come looking for you. All right, who you? Okay, you were the one looking for me, gonna do something to me? Okay, I got you. See, some people will take that attitude. And America needs to be extremely careful because we're in an age where when you start crossing a line, if you want to be a habitual line stepper, the other side is going to be an habitual line stepper, and then it could go really, really bad. And so we got to start thinking about those things.
What do you think the best way forward for the minorities trying to figure out how to respond to the current climate?
We need to be careful. We need to let the Democratic Party know that we need to have our needs met, and we need to start setting the positions. When I say setting the positions, as African American women vote 90% Democrat. African American men vote more than 80% Democrat. How can you vote in those numbers and not have a party listen to you? So we need to make sure that they address our concerns, the leadership prioritizes our concerns, and that we start making sure that we're safe in this environment, because some folks are getting really bold about some of the things that they're willing to say to African Americans and maybe even try to do to them. And I don't think that that's going to end well for a lot of people, because if you try to do something to me or people who look like me, you know, we're not as nonviolent as some of the people in the past. We're going to respond with like aggression. You're going to respond to the same aggression that's given to us. And I think that when you have that coming from people of color, and then you have people on the other side that feel emboldened that they can actually do certain things, say certain things, and threaten and actually harm some of us based on how we felt or what we said, that could go really, really bad. And I wish our president would turn the temperature down. And I wish people, not just the president, but any political leaders, whether they're on the left or the right, would really come together and calm down some of this rhetoric, because things could really, really go bad.
Right. It seems that it's okay to talk negatively about Barack Obama, but not individuals like Charlie Kirk. Is that true?
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, people said a lot of negative stuff about Obama when he was president, but you can't say anything negatively about Charlie Kirk. I've heard people call Barack the magic Negro. I've heard people say in this, in that. I've seen some of the things that a lot of conservatives have said about him, his family, his kids, and I think that we need to be extremely careful about that. But even when it comes to Mr. Trump, I'm very careful about even what I say about him, even though I don't agree with a lot of what he does. I do understand he has a family. I don't want anything or anybody to get hurt. I don't want that kind of behavior coming from our side or their side or any side. So I'm extremely careful about what I say, because I understand the environment that we're in.
As a criminal defense attorney, what are some of the concerns that you see coming down the pipeline when it comes to the American people?
Well, you got a lot of states where it's open carry, so people are carrying around guns, right? So when you're out there, you decide, hey, I'm going to shoot somebody. People will have guns now. When you're on the internet, you're threatening people. There's a lot easier way to find out where people are. When you decide that I'm going to go over here and do A, B, and C, people are not going to take that. People who in this country right now have violence placed against them are going to be violent in return because of our laws, because of the prevalence of guns, because of the prevalence of social media. We need to be extremely careful in America right now because the rhetoric needs to be tamed down, man, because something's going to happen. Something's going to go really, really bad, and we're all going to pay for it.
All right, very good. There's a video that we were supposed to check out, I guess, with Jasmine Crockett. We'll have DJ Genesis bring it up, and maybe we could check out a little bit of it as we approach the hour. In about 15 minutes, we're going to allow people to come up so you guys can get prepared to come up and express yourself. We'll be dropping the link. Genesis, you want to play the video?
Man, oh man, there has been so much today, and I truly don't know where to start. So I'm just going to make sure that we start off with a few facts. So a couple of facts that we need to make clear for everyone is that, number one, Director Christopher Wray, when he was appointed to be the head of the FBI, was appointed by Donald Trump. Now, I will agree that I definitely take issue with a number of decisions that Donald Trump makes, especially when it comes to the people that he decides to appoint to very important positions, including this one, because I did have to make sure that I wasn't going crazy. But when I say that you are the least qualified FBI director in the history of the FBI, that is real, because you are the only one that never even served with the FBI prior to joining. Yet we are supposed to believe that you are the greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't ask you a question. Now, what I want to go through is to talk about why you are a failure and why, honestly, we just need to tell you bye-bye. I know that you got a little upset and you put on your show for your boss because it seems like you're trying to save your job when it came to talking to Senator Booker yesterday. But let's go through some of your failures. So before you were even confirmed, and I think one of my colleague from Georgia, pointed out that you are already targeting career officials so that you could direct illegal firings. Mind you, these cases that you were so upset about, which are the ones tied to Trump, the cases came through his handpicked FBI director. And frankly, when people sit around and say things like, oh, you know, we're happy because now we feel safe. I don't know who feels safe in this country except for the white supremacists, because I specifically as a Black woman definitely don't feel safe. And frankly, my colleagues have been real nice to you today, and I applaud them, but I don't have the same demeanor because I know that multiple colleagues on this side of the aisle have faced death threats. In fact, somebody tried to kill one of my colleagues. And frankly, I don't know if this FBI or under your leadership, if those people would have been caught.
I think we can stop it there.
Should we continue or?
No, let's stop it there. I think we should stop it there. And the reason why I say we should stop it there is because that's kind of what I saw when he was up there. I think that number one, I know he was trying to appease his boss, number one. Number two, there's some Democrats that are extremely upset with his performance in terms of not being as independent as some of the previous FBI directors were. But I think he's kind of in a tough spot because he accepted that job knowing that he was going to receive a lot of pressure from his boss. But I do, on the flip side, understand not the seriousness of how Jasmine feels, because I would imagine, especially with her, you got people that are threatening her life. You got people that are threatening her colleagues' life. And I want you to really think about that when you really wrap your head around it. You go through your whole life, you go to law school, you really work hard, you get elected, you go to Washington, and then you got people threatening your life. And then some of us, even though we're in that position, we still are human beings with families and children and mothers and brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews that we have to take care of. And when somebody threatens your life, a lot of us take it seriously. You know what I mean? I come from a community where when you threaten somebody's life, that's a serious thing. You don't do that. You don't play on the internet like that. I mean, I know some guys like you threaten them, they're gonna come looking for you because they're not gonna be looking over their shoulder all of the time. That's just kind of the mantra that a lot of people I grew up live by. And I think that you got to be extremely careful when you start threatening life over political disagreements. And I think that's where we are in this country. We are threatening people's lives a lot over political disagreements.
Right. Okay. So I just want to go to some of the comments now. Let's
All right,
see.
there was one more video I wanted to show, and I wanted to get like some thoughts about this video before we go to the comments. What are your thoughts on this video?
That young man. I forgive him.
I hate my opponent. And I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry.
The answer to hate is not hate. The answer we know from the gospel is love, and always love. Love for our enemies and love for those who persecute us.
I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent. Today, an entire nation wraps its loving arms around you and your beautiful children. We share in your immense and overwhelming sorrow, and we vow that we will do everything we can to ensure that your children grow up in a land where their father is honored and revered as a great American hero. That's what he is.
What are your thoughts on that video?
I tell you, I feel bad for her because she has children. She has a husband that she lost. I thank God that she said she forgave the people who did this. But when I look at our president, I just have concerns about some of the stuff he's saying, that he hates his enemy, or he hates, really what he's saying is he hates people that don't agree with him. And I think that you got to be very careful about that. And then the fact is that Mrs. Kirk is speaking forgiveness and making sure that she continues her walk in her faith. And even though Mr. Trump professes the faith, he is not actively behaving himself in what I would be called a Christ-like or Christian or biblical way. And so when I see stuff like that out of him, I get concerned, not just for the Christian part of it, but the fact that he is the president of the United States, and we need somebody as an example to be a uniter, not a divider. And I think that that's kind of why I have some serious concerns about that. And then it looked a little bit to me like he was photo opping, trying to milk out of that situation all he could. But I feel bad for Mrs. Kirk, her family, because, and even some black people may, or I'm gonna say black people, maybe some people on the Democratic side may say, well, you shouldn't feel bad for her and her kids. And I'm not that kind of person. My faith requires me to put my faith first, and based on the foundational values that I have been taught in church, and that as a Christ follower, I put my faith above all of that political stuff and that left-right stuff. And I don't want anybody to have to experience losing a loved one in that fashion. And that's just my opinion. But with that being said, I think that we have to be careful about, kind of making a martyr out of people against other people when the other people had nothing to do with him losing his life. It was somebody on the right, somebody in his community, somebody from Utah that wasn't even part of the left that did this. And I think that the fact that they're trying to make it into an us versus them is very disturbing.
Now, because Charlie spoke so negatively in regards to blacks, do you think in an effort to fill in his void, a lot of guys are going to get out there on that college circuit and start doing the same thing?
I think that they could. Those are the things that I have concerns about, that they're going to go out there and start talking like that. And it's not just the fact that I really worry about them talking, is they have a lot of minds that they can influence to be the same way. And you might not have the power of a Mr. Kirk or the reach of a Mr. Kirk, but if you take that kind of talk, behavior towards certain people, that can be very, very dangerous for you.
Right. Billy Wax says they're manufacturing Kirk into a MAGA MLK.
And, I know some people that feel that way. I think that he is somebody on that side who they felt like that they could identify with. I think Charlie was somebody that was saying a lot of what they were thinking, but what they were afraid to say. And I could see how somebody over there may be okay with that. But with that being said, he said a lot of stuff about people like me, people who look like me, and the women that I come from. And I'm not rocking with that. Now, on the other side, he's just somebody that they probably are saying, hey, for years, white folks have been talked about openly, and we've been saying, the white person has done this, the white man has done this, the white man has done that. And I think that he is somebody that they say pushed back against that narrative. Because some white folks feel like, hey, whatever my relatives did or my ancestors did 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, I have no duty to repay that. I have no duty to be responsible for that. I'm more worried about myself, my children, and my future. And if you, in terms of black people or people of color or people on the left, if y'all can't understand that, then that's your problem. I'm not going to worry about it. And I think that it's America. They have the right to feel they want to feel. But I think that people that are on the left or people that are people of color need to understand that that's where they are, and they need to deal with people from that lens.
What do you say for the individuals that are disgusted with what's happening today, but they did not vote?
Well, you didn't vote. This is the elections have consequences, as people say. Elections have consequences, and this is a consequence if you're not voting.
Right. It seems that Jasmine Crockett is probably one of the stronger individuals of the Democratic Party. Why do you think that it's mostly the women that are stepping up?
I think it's the women that are stepping up because the women have been voted in. I think it's very hard for in the Democratic Party right now to have a strong male figure to go up there and fight. And I think it's part of the problem. I think that the Democratic Party lacks, and I'm not saying that women can't fight hard and women can't be strong. They can be. They definitely, Jasmine's strong. There are plenty of strong women on that side. But I think that when you're going to have a certain amount of men vote for you, you have to have a certain amount of strong, children-bearing, family-raising men. And I think that if you don't have enough strong men to fight some of what's happening, you're going to have a problem. But I don't think the Democratic Party actually pushes electing strong, stand up straight, carry the weight of the world on their back men. And a lot of men's eyes. Now, I know they may say, well, a man doesn't have to be macho. A man doesn't have to do this and say this and that to be a man. But there are a lot of men that will prefer strong men leading the charge, at least in some of these battles. Now, like I said before, women are strong. We have some very strong, intelligent, smart women. I have nothing against that, but there's a lack of the party pushing stronger men to be in positions of power.
Right. So with all of this happening, I noticed we're not seeing a lot about Epstein as much as we were about 3 to 4 weeks ago. You think things are going according to plan?
I think that they are, and that's something that people can say that this is a distraction. And I think that we all got to be aware that that's out there. That we still need to know what happened in the Epstein situation. We need to know what happened in the Epstein situation, and we need to make sure we take care of that. People need to know what happened. So you can't be out here doing that and then not pay attention to what's happening. And I'm looking at some of the comments, and I have to, I'm almost laughing a little bit, but I agree with some of them. You can't push men's and girls' bathrooms. Some of the trans stuff, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against people that decide to live that lifestyle, but there's a lot of people that feel like that just to make certain groups comfortable, that they forgot the normal, what we call normal, regular people, and how you can define normal, how you want to define normal. But that's one of the things that we got to worry about. A lot of people feel like that the average person that believes, hey, I want a family, I want my daughter to meet a nice boy, have a kid, I want to be a grandfather, I want them to raise their families, I want our family legacy to continue. I think the Democratic Party, to make certain groups of people feel comfortable, have left the regular people behind.
Why do you think it seems that gay and trans is only connected with the Democratic side versus the Republican?
I think that they may have some of that over there, but those people are very quiet over there. And then I think that when it comes to that stuff, the Republicans have a lot more leeway, or they're going to talk about it. And they're going to say, no, we're not doing that. The Democratic Party, they don't even want to have a conversation about when it comes to LGBT and trans, when certain people in the party feel like maybe they're going too far with certain things. The Democratic Party is not stepping in and allowing that conversation to happen. And then sometimes they're taking positions that are too far. Men shouldn't be in men shouldn't be in women's bathrooms. Men should not be competing in women's sports. Yeah, I said it. You don't like it, too bad. But there are certain things that need to get said, and the Democratic Party has been shy about saying it. And then that's where we're running into our problem.
Okay. AI Metzva says, what are the values of a Democratic Party today?
And that's the thing. I think that you got to be careful about that, because there are a lot of people in the Democratic Party that are deciding that they're not going to vote because they don't agree with a lot of the party positions. You got a lot of people that are Christians in the Democratic Party that did not want to go to the far left. I think the Democratic Party right now is being defined as too leftist, too far left. I think they're defined as they forgot about the middleman. They forgot about the regular person. They forgot about the girl who wants to be a girl and the guy who wants to be a guy, and the girl and the guy getting married and having a family. I'm going to say it like it is, and people need to start thinking about that. If you're a regular person and you're not trans, you're not LGBTQ, you're not with some of the stuff that's to the far left, when you look at who you're going to vote for, you're saying, hey, they're concerned about them. Who's concerned about me? The Republicans are concerned about me because they're talking to me. They're pushing my lifestyle. They're pushing what I want. They're looking out for my future. And I think the Democratic Party has lost their way when it comes to stuff because they've allowed themselves to drift too far left.
Kamala came forward and she said some negative things about Joe Biden. Do you think it hurts the party when you have cases like this, when she comes back out and spill the beans?
Yeah, she has her own issues. I mean, she wouldn't have been I'm be honest with you, she wouldn't have been my pick. I think we needed to have a primary. And I think that that she had her own issues. I don't like the way she ran her campaign. I don't like the way that maybe she did in the debate. Some people like that, but I didn't take kindly to what I saw. I thought I needed to see a little bit more. I did not like the choice of entertainment at the rallies, bringing the Beyoncés and the Megan Thee Stallions and Glorilla and the music. And to me, you're a presidential candidate. That's not a good look. I mean, you're talking about leading the free world, and you got people up there twerking and that kind of stuff. And some people get mad at me that I'm saying this, but that just wasn't the route. I think it turned off a lot of independent voters. I think it turned off a lot of men. I think people that are concerned about that kind of stuff looked at that and they were not fans of that. So I think that Kamala has her own things that she needs to talk about, how some of the money was being spent, how they went through all that money and then ended up losing. But at the same time, I can see her frustration because I think that Joe Biden, he shouldn't have ran a second time. He was gone. He wasn't all there. And I think that he put her in a horrible position. I think he put the Democratic Party in a horrible position. And I think he put this country in a horrible position by continuing to be stubborn and deciding that he was going to run. And I think that knowing that, I know you want to serve your country and I know you think you can still do it. But let's be honest, he just wasn't all there. You looked at the debates. You saw him losing track of stuff. You saw that he was shaky on his legs. And he created a situation that was very, very bad. He created a situation where we had no choice but to put Kamala out there. And I'll say this. Now, some people love the fact that she ran. I have nothing against Mrs. Harris. But I just think that we probably had other options. And I think I would have liked to see other Democratic options in a debate with her and a primary with her. And that should have happened.
You just mentioned how Joe Biden performed at that debate. I'm pretty sure that those around him knew what he was capable of doing at that time. Who was responsible for allowing him to go up there and do that?
They all are.
The American people.
They all are. They should have pulled him to the side and said, Joe, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Joe, we're not doing that. And they should have pulled him to the side and told him he wasn't running. Somebody should have said something on the inside and said, hey, he's losing his memory. He's shaky. We need to do something. We don't need to let him run again. And somebody should have made that clear to him. And they did not. And that's what I got concerns about.
Do you think instances like where they had cocaine in the White House, do you think those type of events factored in on the loss?
I don't think that kind of stuff factored in. I think some people actually, oh, that was planned. I don't know what was going on in there because you got some people in the White House that maybe they didn't trust. I just think that, I don't think that's why they lost. The reason why they lost is this, listen, they went too far left, period. Some people get mad at me, boo-hoo, so it is what it is. Some LGBTQ issues are great. I think you got to treat them properly. I think you got to make sure they're not discriminated against, that they feel safe. But I think when it comes to bathrooms, sports, and kids, they were on the wrong side of that. In addition to that, they forgot about the middle-class, normal person, the normal Jill and Joe who are trying to get married and have a kid and be able to afford to buy a house. Who was advocating for them? And they felt like that the Republican Party was talking to that group, that they were talking to people of faith better, and they were talking to the normal general American who felt like, hey, I am a regular person. I'm going to do this. I want to start my family. I want to push the legacy down the road. The Democratic Party forgot that person. And somebody needs to tell them they forgot that person. They also forgot black men. They took us for granted saying that, oh, y'all black women vote for us. You should just vote for us because you're going to benefit from what they get. No, that's not always the case. When your second most important voting bloc is black men and you don't come talk to them and ask them what they want or they need, and you tell them that they're going to be piggybacking off what somebody else gets, or you're going to deal with the other person's concerns and not deal with our concerns. And man, we're not even being heard. You're listening to people that are on the far left that don't even make up enough in numbers to be able to bring the amount of votes that we're voting at. And then you want to tell us that we got to vote for you. And then when we complain about some of the positions, you send Barack Obama out and try to shame us into voting. And nothing against him, but he is in no position to tell me as a black man who I should be voting for and where I should be voting. He's a millionaire at this point. He has his wife. He has his children. He has his spot. I'm trying to get mine. So I'm not trying to hear what you're talking about when I'm looking up and I don't feel like this party over to the right is properly advocating for me in our future. You have no business coming telling me what I need to do and that you can shame me into voting for you. I think that was a big miscalculation by the Democrats.
Right. Did you see in the media this week about Jay-Z being denied for the casino in Manhattan as far as the casino goes?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is politics. But I think that with that being said, I think there's a lot going on there. I think he has been trying to build relationships with people on both sides of the aisle, especially with some of the NFL owners and some of the powers that be when it comes to money. And he probably thought he could push that through. Him and Nas, I heard, are big into trying to make that happen. And I think that it sent a sign that they're not willing to do that with him at this point. I think partially because he's more of an independent, more of a business person than a strong Democrat. And I think that between the two sides, between the right not really supporting and looking at him as a rapper, and the left looking at him as somebody who does not always advocate for stuff on the left enough, it wasn't going to work.
Right. You guys have casinos down in Texas?
No, we do not.
No.
It's crazy because the Oklahoma lobby and the Louisiana lobby inside the Texas legislature is strong because they know you can drive to Louisiana and gamble and drive to Oklahoma and gamble, and they spend a lot of money to make sure casinos are not approved here. I've even heard that the new owner of the Mavericks, who bought the Mavericks from Mark Cuban, were trying to get casinos here, but I think that they're getting the door slammed on them down here because that Oklahoma casino lobby and that Louisiana casino lobby is heavy.
Wow. I saw this video I think it was about 2 weeks ago, about a city down in Texas called Vidor, I believe.
Yeah. I know about that.
Allegedly, they don't have one black person in that town.
No, they don't. It's called what we call a sundown town. We have some sundown towns still in Texas. Vidor's one. I heard stories about Comanche, Texas. I used to drive from Dallas, Texas to Brownwood, Texas, and there was a town called Comanche. And in 1886, they decided that they were not going to have any African Americans living in their city, and they ran them all out. They ran them all out the county. They actually had a hanging tree in the middle of the city that it was supposed to be a historical marker, but I learned from some other people that that's where they hung people at. There was a big uprising. A lot of people got killed. The ones that did not want to leave, got killed or massacred. And this happened in the 1880s. And there are a lot of towns where, it's called sundown towns. They don't have any African Americans. And you can tell, like, I, of course, went to a small university here in Texas, and I have to drive through some of those small towns, and sometimes I stop. But I'm extremely careful about where I stop. And to be honest with you, I try not to drive through those places at night. I don't try to drive when it's dark and it's at night at some of these little places coming from certain places because it's just not safe.
Can you explain the sundown town for those who may not be familiar? A
sundown town means that, number one, there's not a lot of there's no black people there, number one. And if the sun goes down, you better not be in town. So that's what it means, a sundown town. Okay. And the reason why you got to be careful about it, you have to understand the KKK was heavy down here. And there was a lot of law enforcement that was involved with a lot of these racist groups down here in Texas. So you need to be extremely careful about that.
Yeah. A lot of people are talking about at least two individuals that were found hanging in the South. Is that near you in any way?
No, I think that was in Mississippi somewhere. Mississippi has its own issues. That's a whole nother place. I mean, people in Texas look at Mississippi like, wow, they're really bad there. And Texas can be bad, but Mississippi is the next level.
Yeah, I heard they say they were sundown towns or something like that with those two things happen.
Yeah, you got to be careful in those places, man. It's dangerous. My grandmother was raised in Tyler, Texas, East Texas. So there was like a lot of racism in East Texas. And she would make it a point to never let me drive from Dallas to Brownwood at night. If I didn't leave like by 4:00 and couldn't get there by 7, she wouldn't let me leave. I left one time at about 5 and didn't get there to 8, and she almost had a fit because she doesn't like me driving at night to these small places and going through these small towns.
Right. Do you have a lot of cases in those areas or not really?
I don't, but occasionally I go to small towns. I go to some of the other courthouses in Texas. Texas have some of the most elaborate, beautiful historical courthouses in this entire nation. in some of these counties. In some of these counties, they may not have anything else, but they will restore their courthouse. They will restore their historical markers and historical courthouses. And there's some really nice courthouses, and there's some good lawyering in some of these smaller places. So I take cases occasionally and go to a smaller place.
Do you think the current climate in America affects juries at large?
It does. I think it was already bad before it got to this point, but I think it's getting worse. And I think because I think a lot of African Americans did not participate in the jury system as much as they need to. And I think that we need to be careful about that, because people are coming a lot to these jury duties with preconceived notions about people of color, poor people, people of different persuasions. And I think a lot of those, not just from white people, but black people and regular people, gay people, everybody's kind of looking at each other with the side eye. So you got to be careful nowadays.
All right. Could you explain to those in the audience the difference between the grand jury and the regular jury?
A grand jury just decides if there's enough information to move forward. Like, for example, I've had situations where you have somebody and the case is a weak case they got arrested for, and they decide it's not enough information based on what's in the probable cause affidavit or the police report to really make this go to court. So a group of individuals, usually it's 12 to 15 of those, 12 to 15 grand jurors, depending on the state or where you're at, they're deciding if a case moves forward. And sometimes the grand jury goes, we're going to no bill that, which means it's not enough information to make this case move forward to court. And so we're going to no bill it, and then the case dies. Okay. Sometimes they'll true bill it. They're not saying the person is guilty, but they're saying there's enough information where things are in question and it might be strong enough.
Okay. Susan says there are mostly Spanish Americans in Texas.
There's a lot of Hispanics here, but a lot of them have not voted like they should. They're becoming more politically active, but there are a lot of white folks here in Texas, especially in the rural areas. People look at, because Texas has one of the largest African-American populations and one of the largest Hispanic populations, but there are a lot of towns that don't have either one of us there, or very few amounts of African-Americans or Hispanics in their towns. There are a lot of little bitty towns and little bitty counties where you don't see any of us at all.
Wow. Susan also says the far left is the Democratic Party now, and that's the big problem.
It is. I think that they're too far left, and I think that they better come back toward the middle, and I'm going to be pushing for that. I'm not going to be pushing for anybody to have their rights violated, but at the same time, I think the Democratic Party, if they plan on winning elections, they got to come back to the middle. They got to get back to the normal Joe and Jill, people trying to raise families. They better do that.
Okay. Jay Hart says white liberal women are speaking for the Black community.
And sometimes that's the case. And then sometimes we have Black women completely speaking for the Black community, not enough Black men speaking for the Black community. And everybody has perspective, and not trying to say that is a bad thing to have a Black woman speak for the community, but you got to have perspective. There are things as a man that I feel that a woman won't feel. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. Not saying that the woman can't advocate for me, but there are certain things that a man that I'm going to feel that I'm going to be in my feelings about, and some things I'm going to stand on that person may not stand on. And there may be certain things as a man that I can't understand as a woman. So I think that we need to make sure as a Democratic Party that we don't just advocate for one gender or one race. When it comes to advocating for these groups, you got to have a mix of each.
AI MedSpot says even the grade school children are for President Trump. When Trump pulled up to McDonald's and Chick-fil-A, he already won America.
I don't know about that. I think that he does a good job of selling himself. I think he's very charismatic. It just depends on how you view it. I mean, kids are going to be kids. They just see as somebody's president, and they want to definitely support that. And I think that we got to start thinking about things in that way. And it depends on who your children are and what you teach them. I mean, it just depends. But with that being said, I think we got to be very careful. I think we got to get back to respecting the position of the president, and whoever wins needs to respect the position, understand that even though somebody may not have voted for you, you don't need to crap on the rest of us because we didn't vote for you. And that comes from Republicans and Democrats, and I feel the same way.
Okay. Jack Eli says they don't need a president. There's an elite group of Democrats that run from behind closed doors. A puppet is what they use.
And there's a lot of people that feel that way. There's a lot of people that feel like there's not enough discussion. There's not enough movement in the Democratic Party. There's not enough new leadership, new blood. And I think that that's a valid point that I think people make. They got to get out of the back room. They got to come out front. They're trying to push narratives as opposed to having real people sit down with real people and talk about what their needs are.
Okay. Mashona says, did you remember to like the video and support the channel? Definitely want to remind everyone to do that. Calvin, could you take a moment to explain to everyone how to reach you?
My name is Attorney Calvin D. Johnson. I can be reached at the phone number of 214-565-5600. I can be reached at theywon'tletmeout.com, which is my website. And I can be reached at the email of Attorney Calvin D. Johnson at gmail.com.
Okay, very good. DJ, you have something?
Yeah. So are you familiar with the FBA movement?
Foundation of Black Americans.
Yes.
Yes, I am.
So recently, are you familiar with Myron Gaines?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to play a video and just get your opinion on this video and tell me what you think about this.
The video isn't playing.
Still not playing.
You can't hear the audio?
No,
we
we cannot
can't.
hear the audio. But I do understand what FBAs are, and they're called.
But hold on, I want to because this is a very interesting thing because Myron is known as, I think he is actually Sudanese, right?
Yes, yes.
And so it's interesting. So there's like this whole battle going on within the community.
Go ahead,
Well,
please.
let's see if can you hear it now?
Try one more time.
I'm about to play a little bit. Hear it? Can you hear that?
I can't hear it.
You can hear it?
No,
No,
try
we
try
can't.
one more time. If you can't, we got to move on.
Okay. I don't understand what's going on. Well, let me try the different way. Hold on.
No, we don't have it, so it's okay.
We don't have.
All right,
it.
so-
Why do you guys watch it, bro?
Here we go.
But like, I know why. You guys boring after a while listening to dumbass Tariq Nasheed talk about white supremacists all day, or dumbass Dr. Umar saying you got to pay him $1,000 to have lunch. What the fuck? We was gangs. These are clowns, bro. You guys are clowns. Oh, Myron, well, these white people don't really like you, bro. They would deport you if they can. I don't give a fuck what they want to do. I don't give a fuck. I'm just telling the truth. You guys are a bunch of victim ass, bitch ass. That's the truth. You said for white people. Really? Yeah, here's the other thing, too. White supremacists don't come into my chat talking shit. It's you bitch ass that do. Why'd you flee your country? Shut the fuck up. This is your country and you're still poor.
Too much cussing for me.
The fuck out of here, man.
Too much cussing for me.
You watermelon felon, you fucking.
Let's move on from that.
All right. So Gregory Stevens says someone tried to appoint Kamala as president. She never would have won a Democratic runoff.
Well,
Yeah,
the
she would've
question
won.
I was going to ask, though, because
Yeah.
I didn't know, the reason why I brought that up is that I'm sorry to like interrupt, but
No.
what do you think about this current thing that's going on between like the African community and the Black community with the FBA movement and the separation that is happening between Caribbeans, African, and the so-called foundational Blacks? Do you think that we should be separating, or do you think that we should be uniting?
I think that there's an understanding that we have certain concerns being foundational Black Americans with ties just to the United States. They have the Caribbeans and the Africans. They have different concerns. They have different ways that they've been taught. We're more Americanized at this point, and because for the simple fact, there are certain concerns that we have as African Americans that they maybe don't have as Caribbeans or Africans. And I think that we need to acknowledge that that is there, that there are going to be things that on our side and their side that that we're more concerned with and we have bigger concerns about. I heard this thing at the Essence Festival where they were trying to take over Essence Festival, and really what it was for more foundational Black Americans, and they were trying to take it into another direction. But I think that's a whole nother argument that's a little different from what we're discussing tonight. I think that when we're talking about this group of people, I think foundational Black Americans, Caribbeans, Africans, Pan-Africans, I think they're kind of falling in the same groups because a lot of the Caribbeans and Pan-Africans and Africans are considered immigrants. Foundational Black Americans are foundational Black Americans. And even with that being said, there's been a little bit of a divide between how they identify themselves when it's beneficial to them, but how they at times either talk down to us or try to make their cultures or where they come from a lot better than where we are from. But I think that when it comes to that kind of thing, it's an argument, but I'll be honest with you, people like Myron who speak that way, curse and worry about people in the comment section. That's not really what I'm concerned with. To me, that's kind of low level vibration kind of stuff. When it comes to people like him, I really don't respect. I'm gonna be honest with you. I really don't respect what Myron Gaines thinks or what he's doing. I've heard and listened to Brother Tariq Nasheed. He makes a lot of important points, but when it comes to Myron and the argument between him and that particular Tariq Nasheed, that's not really, to me, going to do anything for the culture itself. I think it's a good conversation, but I don't look at those people as somebody that I take my opinions from. And I don't think Black people in general look to somebody like Myron as somebody that I'm going to focus on. I really don't respect like his intellect. I'm just going to tell you, what did he do? Like, does he have a degree? Where did he come from? Did he just become famous on YouTube? That's another thing we got to be careful about. We're concerning ourselves with following YouTube people and following YouTube movements when we need to be worried about ourselves as a whole. But I want to get away from that conversation because I'll be honest with you, I just don't. I look at Myron and I look at Tariq Nasheed. I think Tariq's a lot more intelligent. But when I look at people like Myron, I don't waste my time on worrying about what he's saying or what he's doing, because I just think he, at one point, got famous on YouTube and took that in a direction. I just think we need to focus right now on what's really happening. And when I say what's really happening, our president is taking our freedom of speech away. Our president is trying to make us worship somebody who said very, very bad things about us. And so when it comes to that kind of thing, I don't care for it. And more importantly, I would love to see people of African descent unite and try to get something accomplished together. But with that being said, I think we got a lot of fish to fry here in America. And I don't know if that argument between us and those folks are really going to move the needle for me.
Well, the reason why I'm asking that, okay, because you have a person like Nick Fuentes, who's very close to this whole situation with Charlie Kirk. So now that Charlie Kirk has passed on, you have Candace Owens, you have Nick Fuentes, and you have Myron Gaines, you have Tariq Nasheed, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these people are now beginning to speak out. So I get it that you don't think it's important, but the younger audience, even though you might not think it, they are watching these people and they're taking sides. So we have to address people like this, like a Nick Fuentes. So Candace Owens, she's going through her whole thing, and then you have Nick Fuentes. He's going against her. It's really crazy. So I just want to at least address some of that while we're here.
I just think this is where I'm at with those people, right? I can address it, but I don't think we should be holding their opinions or giving their opinions that much power. I think we need to tell our young people that they should not be holding these people up like they're the voice of the community. I'm sorry. I know that a lot of young people are listening to them. I would tell young people not to listen to them. Because see, I have this thing about that, right? And when I say this is what I say to people even listening to the audience. What have these people done to be able to get to the positions they are? Do you know where they went to school? Do you know what leadership and what advocacy things that they've done in the community? Do you know what they've done in neighborhoods? Have they actually helped the community? Have they worked in the community? Have they done a lot of things in the community? I don't really get into a lot of the shock jockness of it all. That's just not what I do. That's not what I care to do. That's not even what I care to address. I know a lot of young people are looking at that, but my attitude toward the young people is to tell them, don't give the air and the gasoline to those people, because why are you listening to them? I'm sorry. Why would you be listening to Nick Fuentes or Myron Gaines? Or, I mean, I'm sorry. Those people are not really equipped to tell the Black community what they should or shouldn't be doing. Myron's not even African-American, he's Sudanese. What did he do before he got a show? Like, was he educated? Oh, did he just get a popular following on YouTube? I just don't think that our young people should be giving that kind of air to that situation. And I really don't want to really discuss that anymore, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I just don't care for them. I don't care what they do. I don't look at Nick Fuentes like he's not somebody who intellect I respect, and he's not somebody who I would tell other young people's intellect to respect. So I'm gonna move on from that. I'm really not gonna really go into that, because I'll be honest with you, my whole answer would continue to be, then why are you even giving that kind of thing air? Because those people have not proven that they've led anything in the community to be speaking or even telling our young people what to think. And as a community, we got to start be careful about that. We got too much social media leadership that's not equipped on the left and the right to be able to tell us what to do. That's kind of the attitude I take toward Charlie Kirk. I mean, I don't hold his opinion in high regard. I just don't. Was he courageous in speaking out and speaking his mind when other people wouldn't say stuff? Yeah. But I don't have a lot of respect for him, just like I don't have a lot of respect for Tariq Nasheed, or like, not say Tariq Nasheed, but maybe some of the Fuentes and the other people. So that's not really what I even want to address here. I mean, I'm sorry. There's certain things I'll say this and I want to move on from it, but we need to tell our people, young people and old people, that they shouldn't be listening to people like that and giving that the air. To me, that's very low vibration stuff. And we got to start being smarter to tell our people not to pay attention to that, because they're not doing anything to help us move forward. And that's just me.
All right. Thank you. Jay Hart says Kamala loved putting Black people in jail.
Oh, she did at certain times. She was locking people up in California. There was concerns that she was having some Black men being held in jail longer than they were supposed to be. She was the attorney general. If you're doing that job, you're going to want people locked up. But some people would say that she took it a little too far. And then when there are situations where she should have been metering out some justice, that she should have probably let some of those people go and really been kind of more after justice as opposed to just locking people up. And as attorney general or a DA, that's what you're going to do. You're going to like to lock people up for the most part. You have very few people that are courageous enough to take that job. And I hate to say, just do it all the way, the right way, all the time. Like my friend Craig Watkins, who started the exoneration projects here in Texas. Everybody wasn't like that. So that's kind of the way I look at that.
Susan said Democrats took away free speech.
I don't think that that's the case. I mean, when people can say what they want to say, maybe they would try to cancel people for saying certain stuff. But at the same time, I would not say that. I say what's happening right now is taking away free speech.
All right. Gregory Stevens says, do you think Kamala will run again if she has to win a primary against other candidates?
She won't. I think with her losing, I don't think she can win a primary with other candidates if they're good candidates. And I don't think that she should run again. She tried. She was kind of hamstrung by Biden and starting late and having to use his team. I definitely understand that, but I don't think that should have been the case with her.
All right. Yogi Gemini says, I denounce the FBA movement. We should be uniting, not publicly disagreeing with each other. They tried to state they are better than African Americans, but they're here in America. Ridiculous.
And I think that that's another issue too. And I've dealt with some of that before. I've had people from other places maybe act like they're above us because we're here. But I try not to deal with people like that. And I know some good brothers and sisters that are Pan-African that are from Africa. I have some great Nigerian friends, some great friends from Ghana, some great friends from Sudan. And they don't act like that with me. Nigeria, shout out to my brother Charles Abadie Silva, Charles Maduka, Chigania. I have a lot of people from some great places that are really, really good brothers and sisters. And I try not to have that kind of division going on.
Okay. Susan says, like my Republican Winston Sears running for governor, I think she would make a great governor.
Who's running for governor?
Winston Sears.
Okay, in what state?
Not sure. No.
I read something about that earlier. And they said she's more of a moderate Democrat. She's not a far left. She's moderate, or that she actually had some people that were on the other side supporting her. But I think that I don't know a lot about her. I just read one article, but I heard she's more moderate. And hey, maybe we need more moderate people to get elected.
Okay. Gregory Stevens says, whoever is leading the Democratic Party is giving away elections.
They are. Now, I don't know a lot about the Winston Sears thing. I want to make sure that I clear that up. But they are giving away elections, but not holding people accountable.
Okay. Gregory Stevens says, someone tried to appoint Kamala as president. She never would have won the Democratic runoff.
I agree with that. Probably not.
Okay, so Susan answered she's in Virginia. She's a Republican. Talking about Winston Sears.
Okay, she's a female.
Yes, Virginia.
I think I read something about that. Like I said, I read a small article, and she might be, but I heard she's more moderate Republican. I know she's not a Democrat, but they said that she's supposed to be allegedly moderate. But I just don't know a lot about her. I'm going to have to do my research on her. Maybe we'll talk about her on the next show.
Okay, AI MedSpa says, I'm glad Attorney Calvin dismisses that nonsensical question.
What do you mean?
I guess in regards to Myron or what have you. So
yeah, and I'll tell you this, y'all. Listen, people like Myron Gaines, people like Nick Fuentes, I don't waste my time with them. I would never follow them. I would never do anything that they would ask me to do. And I wouldn't let my children follow them. I just think I don't think that they're equipped to be leaders. I think they're equipped to be popular and have YouTube shows. And that's the difference. That's not what we do here. We're not worried about Myron and those kind of people. That's not the kind of show we're going to have. It's not some show that I even really care to address them or even talk about them. It's not my thing. Because I think that even when you look at how he's acting on the video, right? He's cursing. He's saying BA. This. I don't have time for that. I'm older. I would never follow somebody like that. I would not give a lot of people air. I'm actually glad now that the video is played, because if you're watching this show, this ain't what we do over here. We're not worried about the Myrons and Nick Fuentes. That's not how we roll. We're not really worried about them. I wouldn't tell you to follow them. I'm not gonna follow them, and I wouldn't let my young people that I'm mentoring follow them. So that's my attitude toward them.
okay, Susan says, stop saying our people, say all people.
Our people might be all people. I say our people. And so I want y'all to understand that, right? When I say our people, I mean our can mean us. It can be all of us. So don't think that when I say our, it's just our. I meant it's our. It's us. I mean, I include you too, Miss Susan. I include everybody. All of us shouldn't be following. All or our, we're the same. We shouldn't be following people like that. That's just my opinion about people like that. I think they're low vibration, to be honest with you.
Okay. Gregory Stevens says, I just think that all the grandmothers on Social Security that have to pay money to the colleges on their property taxes just to have them give it away to Charlie Kirk.
Well, I tell you what, that's something about Mr. Kirk in that situation. There's a lot of people that don't support that they feel like they're being pushed to support it. And we got to be very careful in America. We should not be pushed to have to support somebody, especially then maybe said some things that were very hurtful to some people while he was alive. That doesn't mean I have to hate him because he died, and it means I have to celebrate his death, but you can't make me celebrate him either. And I just think that America should not be doing that.
Do you think there should be some African-American individuals going around the colleges and following their memo?
What do you mean following them, like doing what they're doing?
Yeah.
I think we need strong people, African Americans that are going around college that should be pushing, not just worrying about what people that are not of color doing, but they should be worrying about themselves, and they need to be talking to kids and young people about setting the table for themselves, not worrying about what another race of people are doing and always putting everything in race context. There are some things that as a person and as African Americans that we need to control. We need to get our schools under control. We need to get our kids under control. We need to get our families under control. We got to get more men back in the household. We got to create more regular traditional families so that we can reproduce and have better values as a whole, as a culture. There's a lot of work that we need to do, that we need to focus on. And so that's just kind of my opinion about that kind of stuff.
What do you think that took the men out of the household?
Part of it is the government. I think they started doing these things where they were allowing people to live rent free in these housing projects, and they were telling that no men are allowed. I think that some of the stuff that was happening in communities have separated us from our women. But I also think a lot of the social services and some of the giveaways of the past created situations that took men out of the household. I constantly refer to Sherazida Lee, and she had went to a housing project in Florida in the 70s, and there were no men in the entire complex that were not allowed. But the lady looked around and said, this is the craziest thing to me. There are no men, but there are a bunch of women and a bunch of children. And you can provide for children and you can clothe them and feed them. But it takes a man and a woman in a household to raise successful children for the most part. Not saying that it's always required, but it's the best policy, I think, when trying to have a balanced, a great family household, that you have a man and a woman inside the household. That's what I believe.
Okay. Special Master says, I'm 67 from Detroit, went to Detroit schools, and they've been saying the same shit since I was born. It's gotten worse.
And it is. And that's what I'm trying to say. A lot of people in the Democratic Party, they're saying, hey, y'all had our vote for the last 30, 40, 50 years, and it's gone to shit. And y'all need to do something different. Y'all need to come talk to us. We need to be able to set the platform, and y'all need to start delivering. Because I'll tell you, and people get mad at me, they gave over $1 billion to migrants in Chicago, and for 40, 50, 60 years old people in Chicago needed investments in their community. And their mayor, who's black, gave it away. And he gave it away because the Democratic Party told him that was company line and that he needed to. And I think that's sad.
Okay. AI MedSpot says, exchange the nuclear family for social programs was over leveraged by the Democrats.
Definitely. I agree. 100%. Destroyed the nuclear family. We had more black men in the household in the 40s, 50s, and 60s than we did in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the 2000s because of social programs.
Okay. Susan says, thank you. That was very nice of you.
Yeah, Susan, listen. There, I come from a school of thought that we're better together than we are separated. And I think that we still have some common ground. I would like to see leaders, whether it be president, whether it be Democratic leaders, whether it be people from Republican and Democratic backgrounds, black or white backgrounds, say that we have more common than we have apart, and we need to figure out a way to work together better.
Okay. Gregory Stevens says, it's extortion, isn't it? Pay the property taxes or lose your home. Then we're just going to give millions to someone like Kirk.
I don't know if they gave him millions, but at the same time, there are certain people that will say, yeah, you gave it to Kirk, but you also gave giveaways to the immigrants and everybody else. And so everybody's going to have a complaint about our tax dollars are spent. I wouldn't want to give him to Mr. Kirk because I'm not a huge fan of him. But once again, I don't think anybody deserves to die the death he died. And I don't hate or celebrate any of that. But I also feel like you have a right to say what you got to say about him, and that whatever he said, you ought to be able to bring that up.
Okay. Yogi says, that excuse is tired. Black men were pushed out, but never came back to claim their family once they found work. Black men pushed out and then abandoned the family. They chose not to come back.
I think that sometimes you can have people that say that. I don't know that that's true. I don't think that is true. I think that you should be not pushing anybody out anyway. I think that you have your kids, like me and my wife have ours. I'm not pointing it out, but we have our child and we take care of our child and we plan to have her and we push to have her. And I think that you should be in the household as a man taking care of your family. And I think you can't allow yourself to get pushed into these ultra narratives about everything.
Okay, Yogi says, what was that comment about Chicago and the mayor giving it away?
I think that there's a lot of migrants that got sent there and they were taking care of them. And there were a lot of black people in Chicago. I know some that were complaining about, we asked for money for years to fix our communities, and you gave it to people that are not citizens. And we voted for you to put you in here. And now our city is almost bankrupt, and we didn't get the investment in our communities. And there's a lot of black people that feel that way. So that was my comment.
Okay, we have a lot of bots in the audience saying disrespectful things. We just have to apologize for that. Susan says, I think the black men were there, but they did not get married so the women could get the welfare.
Well, at one thing, they were pushing that kind of stuff. Not getting married, because if you got married, you don't get benefits. And there are a lot of things. Like I said, Sister Sharazita Lee talked about it. And I think some of those policies were pushed heavy, and I think that they caused problems.
Okay, very good. All right, so we're down to the last minute and a half of the show. So I think that's it. One last comment. Yogi says, I was one of the black people complaining.
What do you mean complaining about? Maybe complaining about Chicago. Oh yeah, definitely, man. I definitely understand, man. I feel you. And I want to say this in closing. I think that we need to really engage and focus on what we can do as a community. I think we need to watch who we listen to. We got kind of detoured a little bit to talk about Tariq Nasheed and Nick Fuentes and Myron Gaines and that kind. I don't think we should be listening to those people. To me, those people are not serious leaders. I think some young people listen to them, and I don't think that young people should be listening to them. We shouldn't be telling other people to listen to them. We should tell our young people to actually get out and do something, work in their communities. Don't let everybody speak into your life. Don't listen to low vibration people. Listen to people who have done something in their lives. Listen to people who just do more than just jump on YouTube and have arguments. Listen to somebody who's going to actually get out on the block, get in the community, help some people, educate some people, help some of their old, help people start programs, do some of the stuff that I do, Ring of Hope Boxing, Clean the Block Initiative, helping old people fix their housing. I think that we need to have leaders who actually lead instead of just get on the internet and talk, right? Who actually get out and work the community. So when you start talking about people like Myron Gaines and the FBA argument and Nick Fuentes and all this other stuff, I really don't get into that because I think that does nothing for the culture, does nothing for our people. I think it's just a bunch of baby bop bimbo babble. So I don't care about that. And that's how I should treat that.
Okay, very good. All right, so I guess that does it for the show tonight. In conclusion, I just want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in to the channel, watching the world. Tomorrow, we'll definitely be on for lunch to go over the latest news. I just want to report that I had a family member overdose from drugs that were given to them by an individual in the family, but it came off the street. So if you do have a drug problem, please be careful, because these drugs from the streets are taking people's lives. We're losing family members. It's a really bad situation. Always seek to get help if you feel that you have a problem with drugs, definitely. In conclusion, I'm going to have Calvin take us away. So, Calvin, you can take it from here.
Hey, listen, everybody, we got to be careful who we let speak into our lives and speak into our communities. Even in Charlie Kirk's. You got to be careful when you listen to people, and just because they're saying something that you agree with, that you don't hurt other people by listening to that and not caring about other people. Even when I don't agree with you, doesn't mean I hate you. Even when you say something I don't like, you have the right to say it. In America, we hold those truths to be evident, to be evident, or self-evident, right? You ought to be able to say what you want to say within reason. And for the most part, if I don't like what you say, you have a right to say it. If you don't like what I say, you have a right to not like it. And we have a right to talk about it. And I think America needs to definitely do that. And one last thing, we need to love each other. Somebody just posted it. We really need to love each other and start caring about each other. Because the minute we stop finding things in common and caring about each other is the time that we cease to be one country. And if we're not one country, the world is going to kick our butt. So we better start looking at things as Americans, and we better start working together. Once again, thanks to Mel. Thanks to DJ Genesis. I'm actually glad you brought the point up of the Myron Gaines and those type of people so we can have that discussion. But with that being said, we don't do that here. That ain't what we do. That ain't what I care about, who says what. And I think that we as a people got to pay attention to the thing that matters. And we got to pay attention to people who actually work in the community, not divided, whether it be a president or whether it be YouTube personalities. That's all I got to say. Thank you. Tune in next Sunday, 7 p.m. Me and Mel, Calvin Johnson, Mel Smith, weekly legal review. DJ Genesis, thank you for hosting, and good night.
Click the dial, it's buzzing live.